Day continues here on One News Now. I'm Charles Lejano. Local fishermen have found a seismometer with Chinese characters floating near the shore of Pangasinan. The seismometer, which weighs over 30 kilos, was first spotted last July 1, around 110 nautical miles northwest of Bolinao in Pangasinan. It has since been turned over to the Philippine Navy, and some experts believe that the item is an ocean-bottom seismometer, which measures seismic activity under the sea. The device is also typically used for oil exploration. Despite the incessant rains, another batch of Sinovac vaccines have arrived in the country as of this morning. Justine Punsalang now reports to us live at NAIA Terminal 3 to give us the latest. Justine, good morning. Could you tell us how many Sinovac doses arrived today?
Charles, the rainy weather did not deter the arrival of 1.5 million Sinovac vaccines this morning. And this is not the last this week because we are expecting more to arrive tomorrow morning. Despite the bad weather since yesterday, Flight 5J671 arrived safely, albeit late, at NAIA Terminal 3. Health Secretary Francisco Duque III was present in the arrival, and he said that these vaccines will be deployed immediately to Metro Manila and other high-surge areas like Baguio, Bacolod, and Iloilo City. He also said that tomorrow, additional 1 million Sinovac vaccines will be coming in. Vaccines Carlito Galvez Jr. added that the government is also expecting the arrival of 3 million more Moderna vaccines this month from donated by the U.S. via the COVAX facility. Meanwhile, another 560,000 doses of Pfizer vaccines arrived last night. Galvez said that while they will be distributing it to different cities in Metro Manila and nearby provinces, Muntinlupa City will not be among them. He explained that the city is experiencing problems with their cold storage facility. And since Pfizer vaccines require a much lower temperature to remain intact, they'd rather not take their chances of the vaccines expiring by keeping them in an unstable facility. He assures the public, though, that this matter is currently being addressed. Galvez added that more of the 40 million Pfizer vaccines procured by the government will be arriving in the country in the coming weeks. However, despite the continuous arrival of the country's vaccine supply, Galvez does not see that we will be having a mask-free Christmas. He said that precaution and implementation of the basic health protocols are still necessary until all Filipinos are fully vaccinated. Charles, with today's latest batch of vaccines, the country already has a total of 30 million COVID-19 vaccines of different brands. And based on the government's data, a total of 5 million Filipinos has been fully vaccinated. Charles?
Thanks for that, Justine. That was Justine Punsalang reporting live from NAIA Terminal 3. A study suggests that full doses of the AstraZeneca or Pfizer vaccines are effective against the highly contagious Delta variant. The research, published by the New England Journal of Medicine, shows that Pfizer or AstraZeneca are nearly as effective against the Delta variant as these are against the previously dominant Alpha variant. The study found that 2 doses of Pfizer's shot were 88% effective at preventing symptomatic disease from the Delta variant. 2 shots of AstraZeneca, meanwhile, were 67% effective against the Delta variant. Researchers from Public Health England said the vaccine brands only showed modest differences in effectiveness with the Delta variant compared to the Alpha variant. The health department is still being careful not to include, for now, the local Delta variant cases that are caused by community transmission. Why is that so? Mobile journalist Pamela Vasquez gives us the front seat to the story.
The health department is still studying the linkages between the local cases of Delta variant that it announced last week. And that's why it's refusing to classify it as local or community transmission for now. Because the globally accepted definition of community transmission is when cases can no longer be traced to each other and the source of infection is not known. And local transmission is when the cases are linked to each other. But the 11 cases they announced last week were spread out across the country.
Kailangan natin antayin yung sapat na ebidensya. Ang assumption talaga is galing talaga sa labas. Hindi naman po dito tayo nagkaroon ng mutation.
Still, other experts say that given how long it takes for the Philippine Genome Center to test, it's impossible there isn't local transmission happening already.
Unang-una, may mga nag-positive na wala namang possible contact doon sa mga umaalis sa labas, no?
One problem with the Delta variant as well is early studies indicate that infected people carry more viral loads and could be shedding more virus for weeks. That means one infected person can pass it on to more people than he realizes.
Portions of the virus are still detected within the individual after patient has recovered or has no symptoms anymore. They may be shedding the viral particles, but they may not be infectious.
That's why the DOH is retesting at least 8 active cases of Delta that were earlier tagged as recoveries and put these patients on the second round of 14-day quarantine. Of the 16 known Delta cases, 91 close contacts have been identified. Though there is no community transmission yet, experts are now calling for heightened restrictions once more. Metro Manila mayors have urged the IATF to suspend the rule allowing kids to go out. I'm Pamela Vasquez and we are One News.
Trade Secretary Mon Lopez says small businesses can no longer afford another massive lockdown. Speaking with the chiefs, Lopez explained that despite the recent reopenings, MSMEs still have depleted cash flow due to initial lockdowns. However, the secretary recognized the threat posed by the more transmissible Delta variant.
Mabigat talaga yung another lockdown. So ang mindset naman ng ITF is how can we really prevent again a massive lockdown and still try to maintain a granular lockdown. Yun ang if ever ang ating immediate measures pagka may mga surge or itong may surge na posibleng mangyari ulit. Hanggang kakayanin ng granular lockdown ay gagawin yon.
An argument ensued between a vaccinee and a vaccinator in Bulacan after the patient was refused his second COVID-19 shot due to a possible infection. Does the government have guidelines for these situations? Arian Calumbiran tells us in this report.
On July 19, 48-year-old Victor San Pedro lined up for 3 hours at a vaccination site in Pulilan, Bulacan for his second dose of the Pfizer vaccine. But to his surprise, Municipal Dr. Wilbert Eleria refused to give him the jab. The doctor asked San Pedro to present a negative antigen test result. This as he may have been exposed to his co-workers who tested positive for the virus at a company called Feedmix. San Pedro works as a supplier for the company.
Yung Feedmix po na yan, isa pong pabrika sa Pulilan na Aqua Feeds na sinasabi nila na marami nagpositibo sa COVID-19. Ang ginawa ko po, sinabi ko po kay Doc Wilbert, hindi po ako pumupunta ng Feedmix.
San Pedro insisted that he had no direct contact with the company's workers who tested positive for COVID-19. But the Dr. Wilbert Eleria kept refusing to give him a shot.
Sabi niya, magpa-antigen ako, magpa-test ako. Paano po ako magpapa-antigen test? Mag-aalas 5 na po nun. Bitin na ako sa oras. Ang ginawa ko po, umuwi na lang po kami ng asawa ko. Yung misis ko po, binakunahan nila. Personal lang po ako hindi.
Dr. Eleria explained that he was only being cautious.
Maaari pong hindi siya pumupunta doon, pero tao po niya yung mga driver eh. Sigurado naman po, nakakausap niya, nakakasalamuhan niya yung mga driver na yun. Pinapangalagaan ko rin ang aking vaccination team dahil yun na lang po yung aking team. Pag po kami, na-expose sa mga may positive at nagkaroon po isa sa amin ng COVID, wipe out po kami. Quarantine po kami, walang magbabakuna.
The doctor also pinned the blame on the company, which he said refused to follow the LGU's directive to halt operations for the meantime. But Feedmix claimed they complied with the order.
Nagkaroon ng order noon na i-shutdown yung planta. So nag-comply kami last Monday for overall, actually may mga pictures kami noon na overall na plant disinfection tsaka mass testing na nag-comply kami base sa order ng MHO, the LGU.
In the end, San Pedro agreed to undergo an antigen test. His vaccination schedule was also pushed back by 2 weeks. According to Dr. Ronjin Solante of the DOST Vaccine Experts Panel, anyone who had been exposed to a COVID-19 patient or who turned out positive for the virus may still receive the jab. But he warned there's a process that should be carefully followed.
Halimbawa, you were exposed, no? At saka nagka-COVID ka after the first dose. So you'll still get the vaccine, the second dose, as long as natapos mo na yung isolation mo at saka hindi ka na symptomatic and hindi kailangan ang RT-PCR para mabigyan ka ng pangalawang dose during the vaccination.
Arian Kalumbiran, We Are One News.
Despite the ongoing health crisis, 19 Filipino athletes have made it past the challenging requirements with the hopes of finally snagging the elusive Olympic gold. And because of the pandemic, all delegates, organizers, and even members of media are subjected to strict health protocols ahead of the Games. Gretchen Ho with the details.
In its 97-year history in the Olympics, the Philippines has yet to bag a gold medal. We ranked second to Malaysia with the most medals, but without a gold. However, with a 19-strong and talent-rich contingent to the Games, this might be the country's best shot for gold. 16 out of the 19 Pinoy Olympians have already arrived. Headlined by flag bearers Yumir Marshall and Kiyomi Watanabe.
Hanggang itong last month na nag-training po kami sa Colorado Springs at ngayon nandito na po ako sa Tokyo Olympics at handang-handa na po para sa laban.
Four-time Olympian and silver medalist Heidelin Diaz got to work right away. While rower Chris Nievarez, who will be the first to compete, already dipped his feet in the water. Others have also begun their preparations in Tokyo. The real challenge, making sure the Games don't become a super spreader event. More than 11,000 athletes will participate for 33 sports. Add to that, thousands of officials, broadcasters, and volunteers.
Good morning! It's our flight today to Tokyo. I'm a little bit nervous because it's my first time to fly out during the COVID-19 pandemic. First time to wear all of this traveling. But I'm ready. I got everything I need here. I got my bags, luggages, got a ton of masks. I got my alcohol, downloaded apps on my phone, and my face shield, which I'll be wearing only until here in the Philippines. Tara!
Our broadcast team went through rigorous protocols prior to our flight, including 2 Japanese embassy-certified RT-PCR tests. We also had to download several apps to monitor our health status. The PVC card, meanwhile, served as our visa. Upon arriving in Tokyo, more forms greeted us, plus a saliva test. And while walking the streets of Tokyo might be a good side trip, nope, that's just not going to happen. Location tracking apps make sure that you won't get to wander, save for a 15-minute run to the convenience store or for takeaway. Our 14-day quarantine also means everything has to be arranged a day prior. Based on latest data, 71 COVID cases have already been linked to the Games, some already within the athletes' village. This has worried many Japanese, but some still volunteered.
We didn't take a vaccine before we work on this job. So I'm a little bit scared about that.
I'm interested in Tokyo Olympic and I want to get international experience.
Yeah.
Yes.
It took us a total of 5 hours to get to our hotel, but all of these protocols are necessary to ensure the safety and success of the Games. Action Ho, We Are One News.
And those are the top stories at this hour. Join us later at 12 noon as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play. Register for a free account at www.signalplay.com so you can stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Charles Lejano. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.